What would you do if someone walked up to you after 22 years of loyal service and told you they were cutting your earned bonus by 2/3? Not reducing future pay, but money you'd already earned, documented, approved, sitting there waiting to process. Just gone because some kid with an MBA thought he knew better than you did. That's exactly what happened to me 3 months ago. And what I did about it probably saved not just my retirement, but the jobs of everyone I'd worked with for over 2 decades. I'm Garrison Brooks, 47 years old, and I've been the Senior Operations Manager at Industrial Systems Corp. Here in Ohio since 2002. 22 years of getting up at 5:30, driving through snow and rain and whatever else Ohio throws at you, making sure our manufacturing lines run smooth and safe. You know what 22 years looks like in manufacturing? It's watching rookie engineers come and go while you keep the same machines running year after year. It's training guys who started as floor sweepers and seeing them become lead technicians. It's building safety protocols from scratch because nobody else wanted to do the boring work of making sure people go home with all their fingers every night. That Tuesday morning in March started like any other. I was doing my 6:30 walkthrough, checking pressure readings on line 7. The hydraulic system had been running a little hot lately, nothing critical, but when you've been around machinery as long as I have, you learn to listen for the subtle changes. A slight variation in the pump cycling, a degree or two difference in operating temperature. These machines talk to you if you know their language. I was adjusting the flow rate when my phone buzzed. Text from Patricia Hoffman, my direct supervisor for the past 6 years. Need to see you in conference room B at 10. Bring your Q2 performance docs. I tapped my wrench against my palm twice, like I always do when something feels off. It's an old habit from my Navy days, back when I was learning engineering systems on destroyers. When something doesn't feel right, you stop and think before you act. Patricia had been acting strange for weeks. Shorter emails, avoided eye contact during our weekly safety meetings. She'd been with the company for 12 years, worked her way up from production scheduler to operations supervisor, and I'd always respected her straightforward approach. But lately, the hydraulic pressure in our relationship had dropped below optimal range, if you know what I mean. I finished my rounds and headed back to grab those Q2 files from my office. Everything was documented, just like always. 0 safety incidents across all 5 production lines, 3 major equipment upgrades completed ahead of schedule and under budget. Production efficiency up 12% from Q1, which was already a strong quarter. Our 45 major client accounts were running smoother than a well-calibrated servo motor. I'd been tracking these metrics for years, because that's what you do when you care about your work. Every breakdown prevented, every improvement implemented, every dollar saved through better maintenance scheduling. I had spreadsheets going back to 2015 showing exactly how my systems had improved plant performance. The numbers told a story of steady, reliable excellence. Not flashy, not revolutionary, just the kind of consistent operational success that keeps a manufacturing company profitable year after year. The kind of work that doesn't make headlines but keeps 2,200 people employed. Conference room B sits right between the factory floor and the executive offices on the 2nd level. You can hear the machinery humming through the walls, which always reminded me why we were all there. The rhythm of the production lines, the steady pulse of hydraulic systems, the occasional alarm that meant someone was paying attention and doing their job right. At 1 sharp, I walked in with my documentation folder. Patricia was already seated at the long conference table, but she wasn't alone. Young guy in a Navy suit I'd never seen before sat across from her, typing on a laptop. He looked up when I entered, and I could see him sizing me up. Clean-shaven, perfectly styled hair. Probably spent more on his tie than I spent on work boots. Mr. Brooks, I'm Brad Kellner, VP of Finance. Please, have a seat. I knew that name. He'd started about 4 months ago, brought in by the new executive team that had been making changes since our previous CFO retired. Word around the plant was he came from some consulting firm in Chicago. Never worked manufacturing a day in his life. The kind of guy who thought you could run a factory the same way you run a PowerPoint presentation. I sat down and placed my folder on the table. Patricia gave me one of those tight smiles that reminded me of a relief valve under too much pressure. In 22 years, I'd learned to read people the same way I read gauges. Patricia was definitely in the red zone. Thanks for coming, Garrison, she said. We need to discuss some adjustments to the Q2 bonus structure. My wrench tapping stopped. The room went quiet except for the distant hum of machinery and the soft clicking of Brad's keyboard. Adjustments, I asked, keeping my voice steady. Brad closed his laptop and folded his hands on the table. Due to budget reallocations in preparation for strategic organizational changes, we're revising performance bonus payouts for this quarter. Strategic organizational changes. That's consultant speak for something bad coming down the pipeline. I'd heard similar phrases in 2008 when the economy tanked, and again in 2016 when our biggest competitor got bought out. Corporate executives love their euphemisms, especially when they're about to screw over the people who actually make the company money. What kind of revisions? I asked. He slid a paper across the table with the kind of careful precision that told me this conversation had been rehearsed. Your Q2 bonus is being adjusted from $32,000 to $12,000. I looked down at the document. There it was, printed out on corporate letterhead with all the official formatting. My name, my employee ID number, the new amount highlighted in bold. A reduction of $20,000 that I'd earned, that my team had earned through months of careful work, long hours, and constant attention to detail. I'd been expecting that bonus. Charlene and I had already talked about what to do with it. Pay down the mortgage principal, maybe finally replace the water heater that had been making concerning noises for the past 6 months, set aside some extra for our granddaughter's college fund, real things, practical things that matter when you're 47 and trying to build a secure retirement. I looked back up at Brad. This bonus was already approved. Patricia signed off on it 3 weeks ago, and it went through the standard review process. Provisional approval, Brad said, like he was explaining something to a child. Final disbursements remain subject to executive discretion. Executive discretion. I'd heard that phrase before back in 2003 when my previous company tried to weasel out of paying overtime after a massive production push to meet a military contract deadline. Different company, same corporate games. The words might change, but the tune stays the same. Where's the $20,000 going? I asked directly. That's not really relevant to this discussion. Brad replied without missing a beat. Patricia shifted in her seat. I could practically hear her internal pressure building. She knew this was wrong, but she wasn't going to say anything. Probably had her own job to worry about with all these organizational changes coming down the line. I'd like to see the documentation for this decision, I said, keeping my voice steady, like when you're diagnosing a failing component. Stay calm, gather data, find the root cause. Brad frowned slightly. The documentation, the budget reallocation report, the internal memo. The executive decision tree that led to cutting bonuses for employees who exceeded all performance targets. Whatever justification you're using to reduce my earned compensation retroactively. He exchanged a quick glance with Patricia. We'll provide that in due course. For now, this is the decision that's been made, due course. Another corporate favorite means never, or at least not until you've given up asking. I nodded slowly, folded the paper once, and stood up. The chair legs scraped against the floor, and somewhere in the distance, I could hear Line 3's hydraulic press cycling through its normal operation. Steady, reliable, predictable. Unlike the people running this company. I need time to review this, I said. You have until Friday at 5 p.m. to sign the revised agreement, Brad said, his voice carrying just enough edge to make sure I understood this wasn't a request. If you don't sign, we'll assume you're declining the adjusted bonus entirely. There it was. The ultimatum, sign their paper, cutting my pay, or get nothing at all. Classic corporate squeeze play, make the alternative so bad that their terrible offer looks reasonable by comparison. I picked up my documentation folder and walked out without another word. I went straight to my truck in the parking lot and sat there for 10 minutes, engine off, trying to process what had just happened. The factory noise was muffled through the windows, but I could still hear the familiar rhythms of production. Machines that I'd helped install, systems that I'd designed, processes that I'd refined over more than 2 decades. Finally, I started the engine and drove home. Charlene was at work, so I had the house to myself to think things through. I went straight to our home office and pulled out my employment contract from the filing cabinet where we keep all our important documents. Haven't looked at it in years, but I keep everything organized like spare parts inventory. You never know when you'll need something critical. The main employment agreement was standard stuff. At-will employment, benefits package, standard legal language. But stapled to the back was something I'd almost forgotten about. Retention agreement, signed in October 2017 when rumors first started about potential mergers in our industry. The company had been concerned about losing key personnel if they got bought out. Too many manufacturing firms had seen their best people jump ship during transitions, leaving the new owners with expensive facilities and no one who really knew how to run them efficiently. So management had offered retention agreements to what they called mission-critical employees. The deal was simple. If Industrial Systems Corp underwent a change of control and I remained employed through the transition period, I was entitled to a retention payment equal to 15 months of base salary plus additional performance bonuses based on maintaining production metrics and client relationships. I pulled out my calculator and did the math. My current base salary is $115,000. 15 months of that comes to $143,750.55. The performance bonuses were calculated on a sliding scale, but based on our current production levels and client retention rates, I was looking at least another $35,000 to $40,000, total package around $180,000. Maybe more if the performance metrics came in higher than expected. But here's what made it really interesting. There was a trigger clause buried in the middle of the document, written in the same dense legal language as everything else. I had to read it 3 times to make sure I understood it correctly. If the company attempted to reduce my compensation or terminate my employment without cause during the 12-month period preceding a change of control, the retention agreement would activate immediately, regardless of whether the change of control had been publicly announced. They had just cut my bonus. That qualified as a compensation reduction under any reasonable interpretation. And if they were preparing for a merger, which all the signs suggested they were, then my retention agreement was now active. I sat back in my desk chair and listened to the central air cycling on. 22 years I'd been loyal to this company, built their automation systems from scratch, trained half the people on that factory floor, worked weekends and holidays when equipment broke down, because that's what you do when you take pride in your work. And they thought they could just push me around because some consultant with a fancy degree told them to cut costs. They had no idea what they just activated. I called Charlene at her office. She works at the county clerk's office downtown. Been there for 15 years doing property records and marriage licenses. Steady work, good benefits, the kind of government job that provides security even if it doesn't make you rich. "Hey Han," she said when she picked up. "How was your morning?" "Not great. I need to tell you about something that happened." I explained the whole situation, the meeting, the bonus cut, the ultimatum. She listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I love about Charlene. She lets you get the whole story out before she starts asking questions. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then she said, "Can they do that legally?" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." "What are you thinking?" I looked at the retention agreement spread out on the desk in front of me. I'm thinking they just made a very expensive mistake. I didn't sign the revised bonus agreement. Didn't respond to Brad's follow-up emails either. I just kept doing my job, checking my systems, maintaining optimal performance levels across all production lines. Sometimes the best response to corporate games is to keep being excellent at what you do, while they scramble around trying to figure out their next move. Thursday and Friday came and went without any word from management. I spent those days doing what I always do, walking the floor, talking with the technicians, making sure everything was running smoothly. The guys who work the lines know when something's up. Word travels fast in a manufacturing plant, and they could sense the tension even if they didn't know the details. Herman Wells, my senior maintenance technician who'd been with the company almost as long as I had, pulled me aside Friday afternoon during shift change. "Garrison, something going on upstairs?" he asked, nodding toward the executive offices. "Patricia's been looking stressed all week, and I heard Brad, what's his name from finance, has been having a lot of closed-door meetings." Herman had started as a machine operator back in 2004, worked his way up through the ranks, the hard way. I'd trained him myself on hydraulic systems maintenance, and over the years he'd become one of the best troubleshooters in the plant. The kind of guy who could diagnose a failing bearing by sound alone. "Just some budget discussions," I told him. "Nothing that affects floor operations." He gave me a look that said he wasn't buying it, but he nodded anyway. "Well, if you need anything, you know where to find me." Some of us remember who actually keeps this place running. That meant a lot. After 22 years, you develop loyalty that goes both ways. These weren't just coworkers. They were people I'd mentored, trained, worked alongside through equipment breakdowns and emergency repairs. They trusted me to look out for their interests, and I took that responsibility seriously. Monday morning, I got an email from HR. Subject line: "Final bonus agreement action required." I opened it knowing exactly what I'd find. The message was polite but firm. Since I hadn't signed the revised agreement by the Friday deadline, they were processing my Q2 bonus as 0 chairos. Not $12,000, not even $5,000. $0. The email explained that my non-response had been interpreted as a declination of the adjusted terms. I read it twice, then forwarded it to my personal email account for documentation. Then I hit reply and typed one sentence. Please confirm this is an official reduction of my previously approved compensation. The response came back within an hour from someone in HR I'd never heard of. Yes, this constitutes a revision of the provisional bonus amount based on updated budget parameters. Perfect. I saved that email and printed a hard copy for my files. They had just confirmed in writing that they were reducing my compensation. The trigger clause in my retention agreement was now officially activated. That afternoon, I called Gregory Martinez, a lawyer my brother-in-law had recommended. Greg handled contract disputes for several guys at the steel plant when it got bought out 5 years ago. He had a reputation for being thorough and not backing down from corporate legal teams. I explained the whole situation over the phone. The bonus cut, the retention agreement, the email from HR confirming the reduction. Send me everything you have, Greg said. Employment contract, retention agreement. All the emails, performance reviews, anything related to this situation. I'll review it tonight and call you tomorrow. I spent that evening scanning documents and organizing everything chronologically. 22 years of employment reviews, all positive equipment upgrade projects I'd managed, safety improvement initiatives I'd implemented, cost-saving measures that had saved the company hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. Greg called me at 7:30 the next morning. Garrison, this is pretty straightforward from a legal perspective. They triggered your retention agreement the moment they reduced your compensation. If they're negotiating a merger, which seems likely based on what you've told me, you're entitled to that full payout. How much are we talking about? Based on your current salary and the performance metrics you provided, around $180,000. Maybe more if the final calculations come in higher. I gripped the phone tighter. That was serious money. Combined with what Charlene and I had already saved for retirement, it would set us up comfortably for the next phase of our lives. What's the next step? I asked. Let me send them a formal notice. I'll outline your position, reference the specific clauses in your retention agreement, and request confirmation that they'll honor the terms. Professional but firm. See how they respond. Greg's letter went out that same day. It was 3 pages long, carefully worded, with citations to relevant employment law and contract language. The kind of document that makes corporate lawyers take notice. The response came back faster than I expected. Within 24 hours, I had an email from Brad Kellner directly, not from HR or legal. The message was short and hostile. The company disputed my interpretation of the retention agreement and didn't believe the bonus adjustment constituted a triggering event under the contract terms. It also stated that if I continued to pursue the matter, they would consider it a breach of my employment obligations and would take appropriate action. When I read that to Greg over the phone, he actually laughed. They're panicking, he said. If they were confident in their legal position, they'd respond through their attorneys with standard corporate language. This personal threat from the finance VP tells me they're worried. Worried about what? I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to do some research. Companies don't react this strongly unless there's something bigger at stake. 2 days later, I got an unexpected call at home around 8 p.m. Patricia Hoffman, calling from what sounded like her car. Garrison, can we meet somewhere? Not at work. Somewhere we can talk privately. Her voice was strained, like a hydraulic line running too much pressure without proper relief. In all the years I'd worked with Patricia, I'd never heard her sound that stressed. Everything okay? I asked. No, it's not. There's stuff happening that you need to know about. Can you meet me at Murphy's Diner tomorrow morning? Say 7:30 before work. Murphy's was a small family place about halfway between the plant and downtown, the kind of restaurant where factory workers and office staff rarely crossed paths. Good coffee, decent breakfast, and most importantly, no one from Industrial Systems Management would be there at 7:30 in the morning. I'll be there, I said. I didn't sleep well that night. Kept thinking about Patricia's tone, the urgency in her voice. In manufacturing, when someone calls an emergency meeting, it usually means something expensive is about to break. But this felt different. This felt like something had already broken, and I was just finding out about it. The next morning, I got to Murphy's at 7:20. Patricia was already there, sitting in a corner booth with her back to the wall, nursing a cup of coffee with both hands, like she was trying to warm herself up from the inside. She looked up when I sat down across from her. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a way that suggested she'd gotten dressed in a hurry. "Thanks for coming," she said. "I wasn't sure you would. Patricia, what's going on?" She looked around the restaurant, making sure no one was listening, then leaned forward across the table. "The merger is real, Garrison. We're in final negotiations with Apex Manufacturing Group. The deal is worth $28 million, and it's supposed to close by the end of next month." My pulse quickened. $28 million, Patricia nodded, glancing around the restaurant again. "Part of the deal requires maintaining key operational staff through the transition. You're at the top of that list, Garrison. They specifically need you because of the manufacturing control system you built. But Brad's been pushing hard to renegotiate all the retention agreements before the deal closes. He says they're too expensive and will eat into the acquisition premium. So they're trying to cut my payout before the merger finalizes." "Exactly. And here's the part that really bothers me. Brad doesn't understand what you actually do. He sees your salary and thinks you're just another middle manager they can replace with someone younger and cheaper. He has no idea that you're the only person who knows how to manage the emergency protocols on lines 2 through 7. That was true. Over the past 15 years, I developed a proprietary safety system that integrated with all our major production equipment. Custom-built override codes, automated shutdown sequences, pressure monitoring protocols that had kept us accident-free for 8 straight years. The documentation existed, but it was coded in a way that required my direct knowledge to interpret and implement. "What happens if the deal falls through?" I asked. Patricia's coffee cup rattled slightly when she set it down. "Then we're looking at layoffs, maybe massive layoffs. The company's been hemorrhaging money trying to keep up with equipment upgrades and regulatory compliance. This merger isn't just about growth, it's about survival. If Apex walks away, we might not make it through another year. The weight of that settled on me. 2,200 people employed at our facility. Families depending on those paychecks. Guys like Herman Wells who'd worked their way up through decades of loyalty and hard work. But here's what Brad doesn't know," Patricia continued, lowering her voice even further. "Apex's due diligence team specifically asked about operational continuity. They want written guarantees that key personnel will stay through the transition. Your name was mentioned by name in 3 separate meetings. I felt something shift in my chest, like a pressure relief valve opening. They can't complete the merger without me. That's what I think. But Brad's convinced he can strong-arm you into accepting less money, then present Apex with a cost-savings narrative. He's got Wade Patterson half convinced that you'll cave rather than lose your job. Wade Patterson, our CEO for the past 8 years. Good man, but he'd been under enormous pressure from the board of directors to improve profitability. Sometimes good men make bad decisions when they're backed into corners." I thanked Patricia for the information and drove to work thinking about leverage. In engineering, leverage is about finding the right fulcrum point to move something much larger than yourself. I was beginning to understand exactly where my fulcrum was located. That afternoon, I asked Greg Martinez to send a second letter. This one was more direct. The letter outlined my position clearly. I was entitled to the retention payment under the terms of the 2017 agreement. The company's attempt to reduce my compensation had triggered the activation clause. I expected them to honor the contract we'd both signed. But then I added one more paragraph. It stated that in the event the company attempted to terminate my employment or otherwise retaliate against me for asserting my contractual rights, I would be unable to provide the necessary operational support for the manufacturing control system, including access to the emergency override protocols and safety shutdown procedures that I had developed over 15 years. I wasn't threatening sabotage, I was just pointing out reality. If I wasn't there, the system wouldn't work safely. And if they couldn't guarantee safe operations, the merger couldn't proceed. The response came within 2 hours. Not an email this time, but a phone call. I was at my desk reviewing maintenance schedules when my direct line rang. "Garrison, this is Wade Patterson. I think we need to talk." I'd spoken to Wade maybe 5 times in 22 years, usually at company safety award ceremonies or retirement parties. Hearing his voice on my direct line meant this situation had escalated all the way to the top. "Mr. Patterson, I just received a letter from your attorney. I'll be honest with you, I'm disappointed. We've always valued your contributions to this company, and I hoped we could resolve this situation without things getting complicated." His voice was controlled, but I could hear the stress underneath, like machinery running just slightly out of specification, still functional, but heading toward failure if not corrected. "I hope that too," I said. But here we are. Long pause. Garrison, let me be direct with you. The merger with Apex is critical to this company's future. It's not just about the financials. It's about securing jobs for everyone who works here. If this deal falls apart, we're looking at serious consequences. I understand the stakes. That's why I'm asking the company to honor the agreement we made 7 years ago. The agreement is complicated. There are legal questions about interpretation, about whether certain clauses apply in this specific situation. My lawyer doesn't think it's complicated. Another pause, longer this time. What do you want, Garrison? I thought about that question. What did I want? I wanted respect for 22 years of loyal service. I wanted fair compensation for expertise that couldn't be easily replaced. I wanted assurance that companies couldn't just change the rules when it became convenient. I want the retention payment I'm entitled to under the contract. $180,000 based on 15 months of salary plus performance bonuses. And I want the $20,000 in bonus money that was already approved and then taken away. That's $200,000 total. Wade exhaled slowly. That's a significant amount. It's what I'm owed. And if we agree to this, you'll provide full cooperation with the merger transition, complete documentation transfer, training for replacement personnel, everything Apex needs for operational continuity. If the agreement is honored, yes, I'll make sure the transition goes smoothly. I need to discuss this with the board. But Garrison, I want you to understand, if this merger doesn't happen because of this situation, a lot of people are going to be hurt. That's something you'll have to live with. The line went quiet for a long moment. I could hear the factory noise in the background, the steady rhythm of production that had been the soundtrack of my adult life. Wade, I said finally, I didn't create this situation. I've been loyal to this company for 22 years. I built systems that keep people safe and keep production running efficiently. All I'm asking for is what was promised to me in writing. If honoring legal contracts threatens the company, maybe the problem isn't with the contracts. He hung up without another word. 3 days later, I got called into the main conference room for what they called a final negotiation session. Wade was there, along with Brad Kellner, 2 board members I didn't recognize, and a woman in a gray suit who introduced herself as outside legal counsel. Greg Martinez sat beside me at the long table. The negotiations took 4 hours, back and forth, on numbers, terms, conditions. Brad kept arguing for lower amounts, claiming the retention agreement was outdated. The board members asked detailed questions about the manufacturing control system and what would happen if I wasn't there to manage it. Finally, Wade looked tired enough that I thought he might fall asleep in his chair. He leaned back and said, "All right, here's what we'll do. Full retention payment of $180,000, plus your original Q2 bonus of $32,000. Total $212,000, paid within 5 business days of signing the agreement. In exchange, you stay through the merger completion and provide comprehensive training and documentation transfer." I looked at Greg. He nodded. "Agreed," I said. The merger closed 6 weeks later. Apex Manufacturing Group took over operations, and I spent 2 months training their team on every system, every protocol, every piece of institutional knowledge I'd accumulated over 22 years. They were good people, professional and respectful of the expertise I'd built. Brad Kellner resigned the day after the merger finalized. Last I heard, he took a job with some startup that went under within 8 months. Turns out you can't run everything like a spreadsheet. I stayed with the company for another 6 months, making sure everything was stable, and the new management understood what they'd acquired. Then I gave my notice and started Brooks Manufacturing Solutions, consulting with smaller companies on automation systems and safety protocols. The $212,000, plus what Charlene and I had already saved, set us up nicely for whatever comes next. We bought that lake house we'd been looking at for years, and I'm teaching safety courses at the community college 2 nights a week. Looking back, I don't regret any of it. They tried to cheat someone who'd given them over 2 decades of loyal service. They thought they could push around a factory floor manager who wouldn't know his rights or wouldn't fight back. They learned otherwise know your worth. Document everything. And never let someone take what you've earned just because they think they can get away with it. Because sometimes, when you're the person who built the system from the ground up, trained the people, and kept everything running for over 2 decades, you're not just an employee, you're the institutional memory that can't be replaced by a spreadsheet or a consultant's PowerPoint presentation. And here's the real lesson. Corporations will respect your experience and honor their commitments only when the cost of losing you is higher than the cost of keeping their word.